Okay, so your own personal views on the future of Mali?
Well, Mali has a bright future ahead for the simple reason that it's a country that's very rich culturally. It's a country that's, for the first time in the world, put together a constitution in 1235. And he managed to bring together different ethnic groups for centuries and centuries together, to live together. Yes, Mali is going through difficult time because of the consequences of what they call Arab Spring. But we're finding solutions, and we're going to have elections in this coming July. I believe that after the elections, the country will be stable and Mali can start the fight to create wealth for its citizens and to develop the country. And Mali do have a bright future in that sense, but also that Mali is the country with a lot of resources. Mali has basically the largest gold reserve in Africa and the third producer of gold today in Africa. Mali is the #1 exporter of cattle in the sub-region. Mali is the #1 producer of cotton on the whole continent. Mali has more than 2 million hectares irrigated for agriculture. So Mali has a lot of potential to do good by its people. So I see a bright future for Mali. As a politician and head of a party, I had to believe, but that belief is not based on superficial things. It's based on concrete. That's what I...
So you're quite the pedigree, having grown up with your father being a president. So you would have had a very different insight into how you might develop Mali when you become the president. So when we talk about international relations, so what are you aware of with the international relations between Mali and the United Arab Emirates?
Well, I will go back a little bit to tell the history of the relationship between Mali and UAE. Because UAE had a visionary leader, His Highness Sheikh Zayed Nahyan. And he and the former president of Mali, President Moussa Traoré, who happened to be my father, became very good friends. And the diplomatic relationship was based basically on the friendship of those two leaders. And because of that, Sheikh Zayed visited Mali. As a matter of fact, Mali is the only African country in the south of the Sahara that Sheikh Zayed visited during his tenures as president of the UAE. And during that period, Sheikh Zayed helped Mali in its struggle for development, whether by building dams, whether by building roads, whether investing in providing wells in communities that lack water. So what we want to do today, we going toward the end of 2013. Things have changed. Even the geopolitics has changed. United Emirates Arabs is one of the developed countries among the developing countries today. It succeeded in what we want to do in Mali, to blend culture with modernism. We want to learn from them how did they do this, because our vision is that governing policies should be based on cultures. You cannot take cultural value out of governing policies. One should copy. It's a very good thing to copy, but when you copy, you should adapt it to your own culture, to your own value, and to your own identities.
So you would say that what Sheikh Zayed created essentially is a perfect structure to copy and adapt
Exactly.
to Mali.
To Mali.
Perfect.
That's how we see things.
So can you elaborate on the role of the international community as a whole in the support and development of Mali? So we know about the ties with the United Arab Emirates, but what other countries are you aware of that have helped to develop Mali?
Well, Mali has a lot of, I would say, very good relationship with many Arab countries, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And it has also very good relationship with Russia, with United States of America, Canada, and as a matter of fact, Germany was the first country to recognize Mali independence even before African states. So Mali has a very good relationship with Germany. All of those countries try to help Mali. But we are saying now that it's time for our generation to define properly which policy should guide our future. We are the one who should tell our partner, the international community, that we have this problem and these are the solutions for us. Because whatever solution that you cooked up, it has to be accepted by us because we have a different vision now for our countries.
Let me touch on, in 1977, Sheikh Zayed granted around 25 million to the Malian government that would be ploughed specifically into road construction. What type of impact did these massive infrastructure projects have on a country? So just on a country in general. So there's about 385 kilometers. So are you aware of this road project?
Of course. Sheikh Zayed had mainly, if I have a very good memory, recollection of these, two major road projects. One is within the capital, the city. The name of the street is Sheikh Zayed Road. And the second one is not to say the most important major project, but one of the most important road projects in the history of Mali. That's the road from Sevare to Gao. Now, why am I saying this? Because that road basically linked the south to the north, you see, which is very, very, very important. Many reasons, not only infrastructure development for the sake of saying that we have a road, but also for trade and for the community to continue living together. That's why I said that it was one of the most important road projects in the history of Mali.
Fabulous. So now going back again, in 1982, Sheikh Zayed extended around 18 million to the Ministry of Mines, Energy and Water, as well as the United Nations Development Programme's joint project in Mali that would tap into the underground water supplies.
Good.
So the grant was around, it funded around 500 Zayed wells in rural areas.
Yeah.
Can you share any background on this project? So can you elaborate on it for us? And what do you know about these wells and the impact on the people?
That's what I was about to say. You know, in Mali, we have two big rivers crossing the country. It's a huge country, 1,240,000 something square kilometers. Unfortunately, half of the country is desert like the Emirate Arab. You need wells for the different community throughout the desert. And to bring water, water is life to those people. You gave them something that's more important than diamond because you gave him an element of survival. That's why it's very difficult. When I talk about Sheikh Zayed, it's very difficult to say thank you because what he did is so enormous for this community, you see. So we can only say thank you to this great leader.
So in 1978, Sheikh Zayed committed 1 million a year over 10 years to support the funding of Mali's education system. So what type of impact has the Zayed College had on students who have attended the university, and how important is the role of education to develop a country?
I always said that you want to develop a country, all of your policy should be based on education, 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 and education. I have been saying for the last 4 years that my generation is the best generation Mali had in history because we are the most skilled and informed generation since the independence of Mali. Why? Because of the education. So Sheikh Zayed contributed to that. Because of that, I can say today that my generation is one of the best that Africa have known. And if I become president of Mali, he should be smiling, you know, from paradise, that I have contributed to that.
So let's touch on the role of global bodies such as the United Nations and their International Monetary Fund. So do you have a lot of interaction with them, or are you aware of their impact on the country?
Of course. You see, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, impose monetary policies and fiscal policies on many African countries like Mali. But as I always say, economy should be based on social structures and not the opposite. You cannot cook something in a lab and impose in the community. Everything should start from the community, and you should build on that to define your economic policies. So what we want to do, we want to have a better relationship with IMF, our partners, and other developing institutions by telling them, I even should say by informing them better about the problem in our communities and the solution that we think are more appropriate for those communities.
And then ideally what they should be doing is assisting you to achieve that solution rather than coming in with a black and white solution. It's
Exactly.
not one size fits all.
Thank you. That's exactly what.
I can be your speaker.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So I'd love to touch on the warm relationship between Mali and the United Arab Emirates. So can you share any personal stories that you're aware of from your father's era?
Well, first my father and Sheikh Zayed they just love each other as brothers. And I'll tell you one thing. Once Sheikh Zayed visited Mali, they went hunting, he and his entourage in the north. While he was driving, His Highness saw a gentleman with his wife and kids with a broken truck. They passed the gentleman, and Sheikh Zayed asked the driver to stop and go back. He said, I saw someone in this desert. I don't know why he's here alone with his family. They went back. And he asked the gentleman, what are you doing here? And the gentleman didn't know who this gentleman was. And he said, don't you have eyes? I'm here with my wife and my kids with a broken truck. I have no food, no drink. And Sheikh Zayed smiled. And he asked his entourage to give water and food to the gentleman, which they did. After that, he gave him an envelope. He didn't know what it was. When he went, he opened up a chunk of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. The government of Mali had to send someone later to the entourage of Sheikh Zayed in order to thank Sheikh Zayed for his good deed. But that's to tell you who the man is. You see, what do we see into that gesture? Is someone who believed that he not only should help his people, but people everywhere in the world. He made it a duty. In our society, we said that we have nobles and people who are not from that caste, that casted. But even if you're born from nobility, you might not be a true noble. It's your deed and your act that should make you a noble person. And Sheikh Zayed's actions and his deed made him a noble person and a very good Muslim. That's what can be learned from what's happened that day in the desert. And that, again, should attract many leaders, not only in Mali, anywhere in the world, that you can only do good by your people. If not, it's not worth it. Indeed.
Wow, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like cameraman pipes up, indeed. That's a very touching story.
Yeah, indeed.
And that says to me so many different messages. I mean, how many leaders would stop in the middle of the desert when they see something like that?
Exactly.
And how many would keep going?
Exactly.
That tells a lot about Sheikh Zayed's
Sheikh
path.
Zayed.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So these, okay, so stories that you're aware of with your father's era, they were very close.
They were very close, and also because of their friendship,
Yeah.
Sheikh Zayed invested in a lot of projects in Mali because of their friendship, you know. And if you have noticed, when my father left power, there have been less investment interaction between the Malian government and the UAE government. That's what I want to correct.
And any comments or observations that you might have about Sheikh Zayed in general? So you've spoken of him being a visionary, you've spoken of how he saw it was important to have educated people because of the future, water and how important water is to a community. We've touched on the Zayed wells, universities, schools, roads, the dam. So if we can talk about the dam.
The dam is called the Selingue Dam, which Sheikh Zayed invested in. It's the main source of energy, electricity, for the capital of Mali, that dam, Selingue Dam, to tell you the importance of that dam. And again, will the city survive without electricity? Then every time that they have that electricity, they should say, thanks God, thanks Sheikh Zayed. Definitely. And I'm sure that when Sheikh Zayed was intervening, invested his efforts and his country's fund and his own personal fund into this, that he was thinking about that. I want to invest in people. I said that there is no better investment than investment in humanity. That's my own belief. And when you invest in humanity, If you believe in God, you'll have a better tomorrow. If you don't believe in God, God forbid, you'll have a personal satisfaction. And why not have both?
That was an absolutely fabulous interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Your words were wonderful, and they will
Thank
go
you very
down
much.
perfectly in our documentary.
Thanks
And
much.
I wish you every success, and I hope that
Thanks
you do
much.
become the next president.
Thanks much.
How lucky are we to spend time with
God
you?
willing. God willing.
That's wonderful.
Thanks much.